This is the first part of a two-part series. Today I'm going to be talking about how to trade, and the subsequent post is going to be about how to invest. Now, a lot of people confuse trading and investing. They think it's the same thing, but it's not. It's not. It's very important that you understand the difference between the two. Okay? First of all, what is a trade? A trade is when you buy some asset at a particular point in time and at a particular price, and then you hold that asset until you sell it at a later point in time and at a different price, hopefully a higher price. Now, that difference in price is your profit, right? While you hold that asset is not producing any income for you. That's a trade. But in an investment, you see, you buy it at a certain moment in time and at a certain price, and as you hold that asset over time, it produces an income for you, okay? And because of that income, a lot of times the price of purchase and the sales price doesn't really matter, because in an investment, what really matters is the income you receive during the period that you hold the asset, right? Okay, so today we're going to be talking about how to trade. Let me just say, first of all, trading is stupid. Trading is gambling, okay? I know whereof I speak. I spent roughly 2.5 years in my very early 30s, between 98 and 2000, 2001, basically day trading. And it was just an incredibly stupid thing that I did. And I spent 2.5 years roughly that were completely wasted. I started, at first, I was sort of like said, oh, I'm just playing the market, I'm investing, which was bullshit. I was haphazardly trading, and I got incredibly lucky at first. And because of my good luck, I started playing more and more at the market, right? And then, of course, luck turns, and my luck turned, and I started losing money. And because I started losing money, I panicked, and I started getting into it more and more and more, until I got to a point where I was sort of like breaking even. And for about a year, I was just breaking even, you know, and trading every day and going absolutely nowhere, right? And then finally, in the last few months, I started making a lot of money trading. And I wish I could say it was because I was so smart. I wish I could say it was because I had just this brilliant acumen. I could, you know, pick the stocks just like that, or the bonds or whatever I was trading at the time. But no, it was luck, and I'll get into it in just a moment. But trust me, take my experience quote unquote, my failures and my mistakes. Trading, day trading especially, it's just gambling. Don't. What you should be doing is investing, okay? Trading is a fool's game. There are very few successful traders in this world. Very few. Most guys will go through a period thinking that they can trade and that they are going to be the ones who make money. But of course they don't. They lose money, they lose a lot of money, and they learn their lesson. In my own case, it took me 2.5 years to learn my fucking lesson, but I learned it, thank God. I have not traded since 2002. I'm just not interested. I invest, but I don't trade, okay? But I'm going to be talking about how to trade, and I'm going to be telling you about my experiences and the things that I learned that were useful, okay? Okay. The first thing that you have to understand before you get into any trade whatsoever, before you even buy your first position in bonds or commodities or stocks or whatever, you have to know two things. And you have to write them down, and you have to know them cold before you get into a trade. And those two things are, number one, what is your time window for your trade? That is, how long do you expect to hold the trade? Do you expect to hold it for 15 minutes? Do you expect to hold it for 15 hours, 15 days? What? How long are you going to hold on to this asset before you sell it? Before you have to sell it, or before you decide to sell it, that it's time to get out of it? Decide on your time window. That's the first thing you have to know. And the second thing you have to know are your price points. Your price points are, at what price do you get into an asset, and at what price do you get out of the asset? If you think about it, your price points are actually 3 points. The price at which you get into the asset, and in the eventuality that the asset goes up in price, your positive price point. At what point that you decide, you know, I made enough money, I'm happy, I'm getting out, okay? Your positive price point. But the other possibility is that you buy it at a certain point and it starts to go down, whether it be a stock or a bond or whatever, you start to lose money. At what point does the pain become intolerable? At what point do you decide, fuck this shit, I'm getting out now, okay? It's very important to know all three prices. The price you get into the asset, and the positive price point, and the negative price point. If you don't know those three prices before you get into a trade, you are going to be fucked over righteously. Because it happened to me, it happens to everybody. And I'm going to explain why. Because you see, when you get into a trade and you have not decided on the price of entry or the exit prices, right? You're basically going to be sort of like adrift in the ocean. Any passing tide is going to send you in different directions. See? But when you have decided on your prices, your entry price, your positive exit price, and your negative exit price, then you're like a ship with a running engine that's going in a certain direction. You know where you're going. It's very important because it establishes discipline. Because the way that people lose money trading is by not having any discipline, by going by the seat of their pants and being pushed around by circumstances. Random things happen and they go this way, they go that way. They don't know what the fuck they're doing, right? Having these 4 bits of information, your time window, your entry price, your positive exit price, your negative exit price. Having these 4 bits of information clearly in your mind will save you a ton of trouble, okay? What happened to me was I wound up writing all those 4 bits of information on a piece of paper, and I would have it right next to me as I was trading. And believe me, that trivial little discipline, that trivial little tick that I would do of having those 4 items on a little piece of paper right next to me, they gave me enormous discipline to know when to get out of a trade. Because remember, you only make money when you sell a position, okay? So you have to know when to sell it. Whenever you hit the end of your time window, or the positive price point, or the negative price point, you get out of the trade. Just exit the trade. If you lost money, fine, so be it. If you made some money, good for you. If your time window ends and you're neither up or down, fine. But you always have to be thinking of when you're leaving the trade. If you don't, you're going to be fucked, because what will happen is that you will be watching the market as it ticks up and ticks down and ticks up and ticks down, as it inevitably does. And you will find yourself being unable to make a decision. And once it starts to go down, and it always goes down, you're going to find yourself losing more and more and being unable, lacking the discipline to get out. And you will find yourself unable to get out of this losing trade, and you will lose more and more and more than you ever expected. And it will happen. It happens to everybody. So discipline is your watchword, those 4 bits of information. Your time window, your entry price, your positive exit price, your negative exit price, okay? The next rule, and this is a very, very good rule that stood me in good stead during the time that I was more or less successful at trading, is the 10% rule. The 10% rule is, in everything, think of 10%. You have X amount of money, never put more than 10% into one given trade. You get into a trade and you're trying to decide at what point you exit it. Think of, if you are 10% positive or 10% negative, that's your exit or sales point, okay? 10% is a great number because it's nice and round. And if you are fortunate enough to earn 10% in any given trade, you're going to be a happy camper. And if you, by chance, lose 10% on any given trade, it's going to hurt, but it's not going to be the end of the world. That's why, for instance, if you have $75,000 to invest in trades, you never bet more than 10% of that total amount of money on any one given trade. $75,000 is your total pie to play with. You never bet more than $7,500. That way you limit your exposure, okay? Discipline. Discipline is your watchword, okay? Never think that you're clever. Always understand that you are lucky, because trading is a game of luck. And let me prove it to you. Suppose, for the sake of argument, that there is a bond or a stock XYZ. Doesn't matter what it is. You have no idea in which direction it's going to go, positive or negative. So in a sense, you have a 50-50 odds of guessing right? Suppose it's a stock in some company and you start researching that company. You look at their balance sheet, you study their industry, you check out their management team, you look at their product line, you look at their future products, you look at their customer base, right? You do all of this research. And as you do all of this research, right, you start to learn more and more of the company, and that means that your odds of guessing correctly the direction of their stock is going to be improved, right? From 50-50, it's going to be 60-40, 70-30, 80-20. I mean, as you learn and internalize more information, you're going to be able to make the correct bet. Because remember, in terms of the price of any stock or bond or whatever, there are two trades. You can buy it thinking that it's going to go up, or you can short sell it thinking it's going to go down. And when you sell short, you make money as the asset decreases in value, right? So as you learn more and more, your odds improve. They go from 50-50 to 60-40, 70-30, 80-20, but you will never get to 100%, no matter how much information you ever learn. There's always going to be a degree of uncertainty, because there is no such thing as a sure thing, right? Actually, why am I asking you? There is no such thing as a sure thing. Everything has risks. No matter how small that risk may be, no matter how much information you've gathered, there's always going to be a little bit of uncertainty, and that little bit of uncertainty can kill you. That's why, and that proves, that trading, no matter how much you learn, no matter how wise and smart and experienced you might happen to be, ultimately it's a game of luck. And if you keep on playing, eventually you are going to start to lose, and you can lose big unless you're disciplined. Now, a lot of people who get into trading, such as myself, we start to study about trading, and we start to study successful traders. And one of the most successful traders, stock traders of all time, was Joseph P. Kennedy Sr. Joe Kennedy was an awful human being in so many regards. I mean, he was really a son of a bitch, right? But he was a great trader, and he was a very, very sharp customer. And he had a lot of insights and a lot of very clever ideas. And one thing that he talked about was how it was that he emerged unscathed from the 1929 crash. In 1929, of course, the stock market crashed. I mean, it was this like a car wreck. It was a complete disaster. Everything went right down the toilet, right? Everybody lost everything. Everybody lost their shirt, you know, their wife's shirt and their house and everything. They lost it all, right? But Joe Kennedy, he came out unscathed. And for decades, he would dine out on the story of how it was that he got out unscathed from the 1929 crash. See, one day, he says, he was walking to Wall Street, right? And he stopped to get his shoes polished, right? And he's sitting there in the chair, and the shoeshine boy is polishing away, and the shoeshine boy starts to tell him what stock to pick. The shoeshine boy is telling Joe Kennedy, who at that time was an acknowledged master of stock trading, he's telling him what stocks to buy. Joe Kennedy says that at that moment, he knew that he had to get out of the market. He said, when the shoeshine boy is giving you stock tips, you know you have to get out. When everybody is talking about some trade, whenever something it appears on the cover of a magazine, you turn on the TV and they're talking about some asset or something or other, that's when you know you have to get out of it. That's when you know that the market has peaked. That's when you know that you have to run for the exit, because in short order, everybody else is also going to be running for the exits. And there's going to be a fucking stampede. And if you're not clever, if you're not the first, you're going to get trampled. When the shoeshine boy is giving you stock tips, it's time to leave. The final bit of advice that I would give, okay, is something really, really obvious, but few people pay attention, okay? And it's really simple. It's never sell for top dollar. And that's the bit of advice. Never sell for top dollar. Like I said before at the beginning of this, decide on your entry price and your exit price. Decide how much profit you'd be happy with and stick to that number. Never wait for top dollar. Now, the reason is very simple. You never know when it's top dollar. The stock market or the bond market or any market whatsoever, it's sort of like going on a roller coaster in the dark. You have no idea when you're reaching the top or when you're reaching the bottom. You're just too confused. You're going moment to moment. Retrospectively, you can tell, oh, that was the moment when the market peaked. That was the moment when the market troughed. But you're never going to know when you're in that moment. Therefore, you can never sell for top dollar because you never know when top dollar is. It could be that by chance you happen to sell at top dollar because, of course, Every second of the day in any given market, there are, people are bidding or selling at any given time, right? And so, of course, naturally, there is an individual at some place in the world who just so happened to sell at top dollar. And he got lucky, just as like around the world, there is, of course, one lottery winner and millions of lottery losers, right? But there is nobody who can consistently pick the top moment. There's no such thing. There's no such person, okay? So don't ever try to sell for top dollar. Sell when you're happy. Sell when you've reached your price target, the price target that you define before you get into the trade. Remember, those 4 bits of information: your time window, your entry price, your positive exit price, and your negative exit price. Always have those 4 bits of information written on a little slip of paper right next to your desk, right there, so you stick to your discipline. Now, a final note. As I said at the beginning, trading is stupid. It's gambling. As I hope I have explained and proven to you, ultimately it is a matter of luck. Investing is where you want to be. I'm going to be talking about that in the subsequent post. But please, please, please don't get into trading. Don't. But of course, just without even having to look at you, I know that you're going to get into trading because you're going to be thinking, oh, he doesn't know what he's talking about. I'm smarter. I know what I'm doing. I'm going to be successful. Oh, what a giant smirk on my face right now.